Hello! Today we are here to review Creature Caravan. This is the deluxe version, and it's another from the Ryan Laukat series, Above and Below, Near and Far.
Red Raven, but it's so very different from those games.
Yes, yes. There's no story to this one, really. It's just going across the land, and it's a kind of a tableau building game. But before we get any further into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because you'll want to follow along on all of our misadventures or misadventures.
Either way.
And, you know, see all the weird creatures we come across from day to day.
Like Randy.
Yep. All right, Rob, what can you tell us about this game?
All right, so this is a 2024 release, and this version with the Deluxe does have the Wonders expansion. So depending on which version you have, it'll either be 1 to 4 players on the standard version. Deluxe has the extra components to play 1 to 6. It is ranked 2,186 with an average rating of 8.0, which is a great score. Plays in 60 to 90 minutes with ages 8 and up. I think that's pretty accurate. It's pretty pretty light game. Designed by Ryan Laukat with art also by Ryan Laukat, and like I said, published by Red Raven. Now, depending on which version you want to get, price will vary. Deluxe version ranges anywhere between $59.99 and $79.97, but they're all out of stock. And so that was Boardlandia and Game Nerds, but good luck trying to find a copy that way. The only standard retail version we found was in Amazon and Barnes & Noble. They're both for $49.99.
All right, so let's talk about what you get in the box. So in the deluxe version, all of the cardboard resources have been replaced with either wooden screen printed bits or metal coin.
They're really nice.
Yeah, they're really nice, and they have 2 denominations, which we use as 1s and 5s. I'm not sure if that's what they're supposed to represent, but that's how we used them. Yeah. You have zombies, which is kind of odd for a Ryan Laukat game.
Ember zombies.
Ember zombies, but they actually have a glowy, shiny,
because they're on fire,
red hue to them on this gray, which is really cool looking. The dice are actually the teal pips on a standard wooden die, but they really stand out. They do stand out. I like them.
Yeah, I do too.
And all the cards are, you know, they don't have a linen finish, really. Well, maybe a slight linen finish to them, but they're the Euro size. You'll probably want to sleeve these if you play it and enjoy the game, because you're going to shuffle the deck every game beforehand. And there's a lot of cards. With 3 players, we didn't make it through the whole deck. With 6, you're going to, especially if you have people like me that were farming cards constantly. As far as the quality of the components, this is top notch.
It really is.
There's basically the standard boards. These actually have a slight linen finish as well, but they're 2-sided, so you can have different terrains.
And you got 4 of them, so if you vary each one, you'd have a lot of variety.
Yeah, you have a lot of different combinations. It's the same terrain, just different locations. Everything would be. And then you do have some cardboard. The only cardboard you had to preserve from the original game are, like, they have 3s and 5s of some of the, like, food items and such.
And the treasure tokens.
Yeah, and the treasure tokens. Those are the only things you really have to keep as far as the cardboard. And then I punched everything out and then realized there was wooden bits to replace everything. So I have a whole bunch of bags of stuff that was just pulled out. Yeah, I didn't need. The only thing I'd say it's lacking is there are cards that let you basically take advantage of these fruit that you can pick up along the way, and you get victory points for each fruit. And Adam was taking advantage of that the first time we played, where he had like every fruit in his possession.
Oh, wow.
So we had to end up using some of the Stonemeyer corn, because it was the closest I had to fruit available to me. I could have gotten like that.
Should have got tomatoes.
Well, I have that fruit. Is it Fruit Juicy or something? There's like a game where you put the pieces.
Juicy fruits.
Yeah, Juicy Fruits, and it has where you can put the different oranges and such.
Right.
I could have gotten that. They were wooden bits too.
Probably didn't find it.
No, I could have. I just didn't bother.
I couldn't find it.
The corn worked fine. We didn't have to resort to any other games to get out pieces, but it is short on fruit. That's, of all the resources they needed to have some additional numbers for, I think that's the one they should have, and they didn't. That's the only one they don't have them for.
But we didn't run out this time around.
No, we definitely didn't with 3 players, and nobody was taking advantage of one that give you victory points for each fruit.
Right. Yeah, I only found 1 card that gave me fruit, so.
Yeah, so there's very few cards that do. Most of it's on the board. So as far as quality of components, I'm probably going to give this one a 9.
I think I'm a little bit lower. I mean, it's really nice, but there's like no screen printing on the wooden bits other than the. I mean, there's a little bit on the bread and the backpacks,
resources,
but not on the tents, not on your wagons, which would have been.
But they are custom shaped.
They are, but I mean, it just 9 seems a little high. I think I'm an 8. I mean, it's nice, but it could have been a little bit nicer.
All right, as far as theme goes, if you've played any of the Ryan Laukat games,
you'll
recognize
exactly
the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
You'll recognize characters.
Yeah, it's classic Ryan Laukat.
It's the same kind of creatures you see in those games. I would say the only thing to me that was off-putting were the zombies. I love the look of the piece, but there's no other Ryan Laukat games that have zombies in them.
That you know of.
That I'm aware of, right. You know, if I'm playing above or below or near and far, there's always creatures that are confrontational, whether they're villains or not. They could have had one of those you fought along the way.
I like the zombies because and they look neat. I love the wooden bits of them. They look great.
It just, to me, it doesn't fit into the world that Ryan Laukat had created for all the other stories. And this is not a choose your own adventure game.
It is not.
So that takes away a little bit for me from the theme, because that's one of the things that made those other games so special and thematic. Was you had these, as small as the stories were.
Well, especially like Sleeping Gods, which was epically good.
Yeah.
So
as far as a theme goes, I think I'm probably about an 8 on this one. I probably would have gone higher if it had a story mode, behind it, as far as a choose your own adventure element or something like that.
And again, this is where I'm a little different. I think I'm actually going a little bit higher just because the art on the cards is so top-notch.
It is really good.
I mean, the boards are clean and simple looking, but it's still good art. But the cards are just fantastic. I'm an 8.5.
Okay. You're not that much different.
It's different.
All right. As far as the rulebook goes, this is a pretty simple game. It's 16 pages long. The cover is matching the box cover. And then it's got... The components are all on one page. There's a page completely wasted with art in there, which is pretty, but it doesn't...
I don't think it's wasted at all. I love it when they do art like that in the rule books, or like in the cover of the box, something like that.
So setup is pages 4 and 5. There's no confusion there. There is a one paragraph story on basically where this set's at in the storyline. And as far as then it's going through the gameplay, which is basically talking about the actions you can take on your turn. Turns in this are kind of irrelevant because it's a simultaneous play completely. This is definitely a multiplayer solitaire game.
Right.
You're not going to interfere with each other. Really, the only thing where that interaction occurs is on the zombie board and on the market. But even there, if you play it on the same turn, you can still do everything the same. So then it goes through the different action types and end of turn, which basically is after you've played all your dice and done all the cards that you want, because there's no limit to what you can do as far as cards except for your hand size, which there is no hand size maximum, but you still have to have the resources and the cards, and then you have a limit of 12 cards. Creatures that you can put
cards,
in play.
because you also got basically equipment type items.
That's the Wanderer's expansion, is anything that attached to a card.
And so those don't count against you. And then there's ways to break the rules too.
Yeah, so basically the rules go from page 6 to page 11. After that, it goes into the card anatomy, and then the solo play, which is solo is 2 pages. So it's really only about 6 pages of rules, and that's all there is to it. And it's because it's basically all you're doing literally on your turn is playing cards
or rolling dice.
Well, you roll your dice, play your dice to action spaces that have the dice value or higher. So getting low numbers kind of stinks in this game.
It does, but the other thing that's nice is you don't need a cheat sheet. This game is fairly simple to where the iconography is very clear. The mechanics are very clear, so you don't need a cheat sheet, which is really nice.
Yeah, So there were a few holes in the rules that didn't have clarification. We had to go online because one of the places that's kind of confusing is when you move through a danger spot, which are represented with a circle with an X, you pick up a zombie. And then you can't attack it unless you stop your movement on that space. Otherwise, if you move on to another space that doesn't have a danger spot, you can't attack the zombie. So we were like, well, what happens if you move through two or three of them? Can you ever go back and fight those zombies again? They basically just become permanent negative victory points. Well, it turns out you can. And it's not real clear in the rule book. It's something that Ryan Laukat cleared up on Board Game Geek. But basically, you would have to have a lot of strength to allocate across multiple attack actions, and it really depends on how many attack actions you have in your tableau. You get one by default on your main board, so you're not going to be able to do it with just that action.
And probably. The attack ramps up pretty quick.
Yes, it does.
It can be very tough.
So, yeah, I mean, the good news is they're only -1 victory point. So, it's not unusual to end with some.
And the victory points you get for killing them are exponential, too. They range from 1 all the way up to 12 points.
Yeah, so you can they're basically there to give you a source of victory points.
Yeah.
They're not really penalizing you too heavily because you get more points moving up the track than you do losing victory points for zombies. Racing through the zombies. Yeah. As far as the rulebook goes, I think it does a pretty good job. It's just got a few holes in it. I'm proud, and the fact that it's so short and gets you into the game as quickly as it does, I'm going to give it an 8.
Good deal.
All right, moving on to gameplay. So first, you're going to set up the board, putting these 4 boards of 6 spaces on the table in whatever arrangement you want. The first one has to be the starting tile, though. And that one is the only one that is fixed. You can flip it over at either side, but you have to put that one first. And then there's an attachment at the end you can attach to whichever board is at the end. It doesn't matter which one it is. That's your final destination.
Right.
I think it's called East Ray. So if you manage to get all the way across the board, you'll get 25 points for the number of spaces you've moved across the board, plus a bonus of 5 if you manage to reach there. Then you get a handful of 8 cards at the beginning of the game to start, and 1 coin. That's all the resources you get, and 5 dice. So you're going to spend each round, you got 12 rounds in the game marked by tenths, and that's the timer. Once everybody's played their 12th tenth, that's the last end of the game.
Right.
So you're going to roll your dice. You do get 1 mulligan if you roll all dice and you don't like the numbers you got to roll them all again. No Yahtzeeing and keeping certain dice.
Yeah, just trying to keep all 6s.
You have to roll them all. Now there may be rules that are defined by that by the cards you play, but in general you roll all your dice. I did have a few where I could either add to a die.
Yeah, I had some that allowed you either just or re-rolls.
Yeah, specific dice.
Yeah, specific dice.
So there are cards that let you violate that, but in general, you roll once,
and
keep it, or you roll again completely, and then you're done. You're stuck with whatever you got to roll 2. Then you're going to decide how you're going to allocate those dice and what cards you have. One option you have that's a free action is you can discard a card to get a food at any time.
Or 3 cards for a coin.
Yeah. Coins are super expensive to get. They're rare on cards, but they are there. But they don't really serve a whole lot of purpose.
I just think it's generally the cards that are a little bit more powerful or a little bit more expensive are going to require coin.
Yeah.
But the cards I had that needed the coin were worth it. They were nice.
I had some that required 2 coin, but the main thing you're going to do with coin is use it to market, which we'll get to.
Right.
So you basically are either going to be paying food or coin, or the backpacks, which I don't know what you got in your backpack that's so valuable, but apparently people love backpacks.
It's tools, because that's what you're using is items. So
so there's some combination of those. Generally, food is in everything, but you're going to sometimes have coin and or backpacks involved in the cost too. So you can play the cards as free actions, as many as you have the resources for, and you can gain resources by playing dice to certain spots. So at the beginning of the game, your main board has spots where you can gain more cards. You have spots where you can gain 2 food. A spot for gaining a backpack, And once you've allocated a die to it, it's permanently used for that round.
You can't use like multiple dice for
Yeah.
the same action.
So like this one has 2 food. I've got several 6s over here. I could not put 2 6s there and trigger it twice. I can only put 1 and it's done. So I would maybe put a 5 on this backpack and get 2 food in a backpack.
And the other thing you can use dice for is movement.
Yeah. So there's spaces as you move, they have different terrain on it. The main movement, easiest movement, is going through just grass. So they call it the plains, I guess.
Yeah.
And
that's a 3 or higher.
A 3 or higher on 1 die on your main board, but you'll get better exchange rates as you build out your tableau.
Absolutely.
You also have one that lets you go through any terrain type you want, but it costs 2 dice of any value because it's got 2 1s, which means you can play any number there.
And then again, you get much better exchange with cards because I got quite a few movement cards because I was able to make it all the way to the end of the map, and it was just because of the cards I got were really nice and easy to use, and so
at first it's going to feel like you can barely move.
Right.
I mean, I was restricted at the very beginning, and I got kind of caught behind terrain because I didn't want to spend
like a big
2 dice.
circle.
I was doing a square dance, so until I could get some movement cards, and I thought I had a really nice path at the bottom, and I never ever went down there. I ended up going towards the top where everybody else was because there were so many big mountainous areas, and I never got a card to let me move through mountains. So. Yeah, it's really a neat system they've got as far as the actions, cool. And it's everybody's going to finish relatively the same time. There's very little downtime waiting. Somebody may have just thought a little bit more about it, and it takes them a few minutes longer, but it's minimal.
There's very little downtime.
So I like that if, in a game, the only problem with this kind of a game, and it's common for all these multiplayer solitaire games, is if someone didn't understand the game properly, you wouldn't be able to help them. They may accidentally violate rules because they just don't understand, and they're thinking, oh, this is how it is, and they could go through the entire game and you wouldn't know they had played it wrong. Because
and then they could have an incredibly underwhelming or overwhelmingly overwhelming score.
So that's the only problem with games, and it's not this game alone. It's any kind of multiplayer solitaire game. So it's one of those things. Thankfully the rules are that simple that it's not that hard to get it right. But
and then hopefully your table, if they have a question, they'll stop and ask instead of just assuming.
So the first time you play, you may have to, if you've got new people, you may have to guide them through. Just make sure while they're taking their turn to help them out, make sure they're not violating anything. Especially if they're new to gaming, since this does play 8 and up, you could easily get somebody that's really young that doesn't fully grasp either the strategy or how the card combos.
Yeah, what to look for in card combinations.
Yeah. So. Basically, you play through 12 rounds. Oh, we didn't talk about the market or the zombie board. So there's
a lot of scoring in that.
Yeah, this is kind of a unique system. So, let's say you accumulated several coin or several backpacks. There's a space that you can trigger the market to do 1 trade on the market on your board. You have to play a 2 or higher on the main board. There's cards that also let you trigger, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, I never saw those.
But you can basically take one of your sets. Like if I had 4 coin, I can go and look on the board. Okay, here's 3 coin. 4 coin is already locked, but I can put a cube at the top of the market, and I can take 3 of my coin, then put it back in the supply. I will get as a trade for that 5 food, 2 plus the number. What coin I played, or 2 plus the number of backpacks.
Which is a great way to get a lot of food really quick.
You'll also get victory points at the end of the game for that market trade. And that can go all the way up to 14 victory points, depending on how many coin you have or how many backpacks. So you want to take advantage of that, because what happens is every round those cubes move down. After 2 rounds of moving down, that number becomes locked, and nobody else can play on that.
For that particular number.
For that unique combination of number and victory points. Some of them are on there a few times with different victory points, or same even. So there's lots of opportunities to score points.
And a very similar system with the combat. So when you get a zombie, you get to attack it,
Yeah.
And then, but you have to use dice and card combinations because, as we were saying earlier, that amount that you need to defeat the zombie could escalate very quickly.
Yes.
So you have to get like, starts off with 1, but if you go all the way up to needing 22 attack.
Oh no! It starts. It doesn't start at 1. It starts at 5.
That's true. So it starts at 5,
point.
and that's only worth 1. But if you can get 22 attack, that's worth 12 victory points.
Yeah.
It's a lot of points, but it's a lot of attack.
Right.
And I didn't see a whole lot of cards that allowed that bumped up my attack.
I had one at the end that was worth +3. But I never played it.
I mean, it's and each one is generally a different attack. So if you put a dice on that, you have to add up cards that either give it to you for free or the action ability itself.
And it's the pip count that matters. So if I put a 6 on my dagger here, I can attack at the 6th level.
Right.
Which is, the first position is 5, the second position is 6. After that, I'm going to need more attack. I need something.
Can't do it there.
I got to get another card that lets me apply. So Miranda has one here that gives her a +1. So if she'd allocated a 6 there, she'd have 6 plus 6 and 1, so 7, so 13 attack that she could allocate. But so the zombie strength in essence is dictated based upon how much attack you're throwing at it,
which is a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of neat, and it escalates quickly and it gets more difficult. But the other side of the coin is they're not that harmful. So I mean, they're only -1 point. So yeah, it'd be great to get the points, but if you don't, no big deal.
Yeah, because you'll probably get other points.
Yeah.
So, I've got most of my points off of card combinations because I had a card let me violate the 12 card maximum limit.
Right.
If anything, that's my biggest grievance with the game is there's, I think, only one card I've seen that does that. And that's where it basically says if you have, tiny cards, then you can ignore them as toward your count.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in that regard, if you're lucky enough to find that card, it can be a little broken.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you also have to build that engine where you're drawing a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to farm through that whole deck, and that deck is massive.
Yeah, and that's what I had. I had one where basically I got anytime I moved, I got a card for one specific card. Then I had one that gave me every time I went to one of the white towers, where normally if you retire on a white tower, you get to draw 3 cards. I got to draw 5 cards and replenish anytime I played a card. So I would automatically be replacing.
So you weren't losing cards.
The only time I lost was when I discarded them for food or coin.
But still, I mean, it's still pretty nice.
Yeah, so I hit like every white tower I could along the way.
He kicked their butt. He got like over 30 more points than the rest of us.
I'm at 25.
Close. Yeah.
Who's counting? Me. All right. So Miranda loves this game, and so
I do
did
too.
Adam.
I think I would love to be able to find a copy of this, but I can't find a deluxe version.
Yeah. So glad we Kickstarter. Matter of fact, Miranda saw this at Gen Con like 2 years ago. Like the registration for maybe it was last year, I don't remember. But she saw it and she's like, we backed this, didn't we? And I would immediately have backed it for her. And when it showed up, she'd forgotten all about that. But then she loved this game.
Yeah, I would like to find a copy. This is a good one.
So she gave this one, as far as gameplay, a 9, I believe. I was a little lower because of the fact that the zombies threw me off and the lack of having that choose your own adventure element that I love about the other games. It's still a great game. I think I gave it an 8.5. And the more I play it, the more I enjoy it. But there is a little bit of sameness as far as moving across the board.
Yeah, I could see that as being a little bit of a negative, but at the same time, I'm not going to hold this game up to the other Red Raven games because they are so very different.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'd be fair to say, well, because it doesn't have this like the others, I don't want to make that a detriment, but it is very light. And so, generally speaking, I usually downplay a little bit of a lighter game, but it was just so easy and approachable. I don't even want to take away from that. I think personally I would give it an 8.5.
Okay.
It's a fun game.
You're with me on it. I think it's beautiful. It's fun.
For sure.
And I don't know how many times we've been requested to play this game again. I'm
and I don't know.
Adam went
and
home.
I'm glad you introduced the equipment part of it because I think that really...
I would not play it without
I don't
the
see
equipment.
why you would.
No, I don't.
Because it doesn't make it any more complicated. It just adds more.
Well, plus
to it.
it's going to mean that your cards are going to become less valuable.
Yeah. Well, there was a really
have
great card I had. I don't know if you've seen the giant mallet, but every time I put a die on it, it put a cube on that card, and for every cube, it reduced food costs for everything.
Wow. Yeah.
It was super cool.
Yeah, I had a card that reduced food costs for machines and food costs for all my cards by 1. So I could, if I got a machine, I could discount it by 2.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely lots of cool combinations you can do with cards. But I just feel like there's a few cards that are really powerful. And then there's also cards that give you extra dice, which there's 5 of those in the deck.
And I didn't realize that's what it was, so I discarded one by accident. So.
Yeah. So, it really depends on what you get, but you want to focus on trying to get the cards that are going to work best for you. And one other thing about it is it has keywords on cards that are referenced a lot, but there's also references, and this is what another thing that threw me off. There's references to the names of cards, or at least partial names in some cases.
Yes, it does, because like I had one card, it said +2 if, and it's just worded a little oddly, so it just took a second for me to get it, but it looked for a specifically named card. Yeah. And if it was there, then it got an extra 2 points.
Well, I had one that was more generic of the card, like if you have any of this specific
and I had some of those too, so like I had some that said +4 deadly. And it's like...
Well, that's a key word, though. Deadly's a key word. I think they should have put all of those words as key words. That's my point. Because I had one that was like, if, it gives you victory point bonus if you have a Crisarian. And I'm like, okay, what's a Crisarian or whatever? So it just so happened I had one in play. Oh, okay. It was the Crisarian Builder or something, But yeah, it was not even the full name. It was just
it's like the race or something.
The adjectives that described it. It's like the race of that card. They should have made those keywords up front. Just had everything be keyword based, because it made it more confusing. A little bit, but it wasn't that big a deal. No, it wasn't. So yeah, I think all around everybody's enjoyed this game who's played it. I think it's one that the other thing about the Deluxe is it plays 2 more players, and you don't typically see that in a Deluxe version. You might get 1. Sometimes I've seen it go additional 1 player. This makes it a 4-player game to a 6, and because it is a solitaire game and you're not impacting each other in anything. Not a big deal. There's no reason, other than maybe going through the cards quicker. Yeah, there's no reason this shouldn't be a 6-player game. And the only reason 6 players would be a limitation is because that's all the vertical spaces you have at the start that you can place your carts on. Otherwise, you could play it any number, really. You might run out of resources or cards faster. Sure. But yeah, I think this is an excellent game, especially for a light game. I mean, if you... It's very, like I said, it's very approachable. So if you got a group that's just into light games or just really getting into the hobby, this is a good one to start with. And, the thing about Ryan Laukat games is every time I get one, it makes me feel happy. Yeah. Because, it's like I'm going back into that world. I'm meeting my old friends from that world again. And, that's one of the things I've always loved about Ryan Laukat's games, that he keeps that consistent theme. Now, he does a few that vary, but... Yeah, but I think in addition to that, it's just that, he cares about what he makes. There's a lot of TLC that goes in his games. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, I just respect that a lot. And I appreciate it. Yeah, so this is another great hit from Red Raven. Go check it out if you haven't. And or be like me and keep looking for it. But yeah, look for the Deluxe, because it's... Yeah, I don't think I could play this with just cardboard, because this is a nice version. Yeah, so. Sometimes you get the Kickstarters and there's not that much difference. There's a huge difference between the Deluxe and the regular in this case. It's worth it. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to look for. All right, well, that's our thoughts on Creature Caravan. So if you had a chance to play it, let us know what you think. What's your favorite Ryan Laukat game? Let us know that. And where'd you go on your last caravan? Yeah, if you care about bands, you can tell us about that too. I don't know why you would, but, as long as they have windows and you're not, so we don't like those windowless bands. Those are bad. Yeah. All right, so until next time, you keep on cohorting with your fellow creatures, and we'll keep playing. Bye.